Okay, now that I've got all the brass out of the tumbler, I bagged them up into just 100 increments at 230 total. I've already done some over there for calibrating and just getting the dies set up. I decided to go with a Lee Ultimate die set. I don't know if you can see that. Comes in like a little yellow cover. I don't know. It's 4 dies. It has very good reviews for this press, and it seemed like it was a good quality die set for just like a medium run of the mill, just decent die set. So that's what I decided to go with. So back to the brass. I got the brass out of the tumbler. They've been bagged. They've been sitting here. Haven't had really time to get out and do anything else. So next step, as far as I could tell and from what I've seen, is you take them out and you check the length, which on this little sheet over here, maximum trim length is 1.76 inches. So I will go through 175, and these all still have the primer in them. They just fired, tumbled, bagged. So I'm going through 174, 173, 174. I don't know if you can see the numbers. 174 and 174. So all 5 of these, I'm just doing 5 for right now just for show, but all 5 of these, as far as I can tell, are in spec. So the next step is I take a little chamfer tool and I go through and just do a little chamfer around the top, just so where I can see it getting a little shiny line around it. I don't know if you can tell video, it just kind of gives it a little shiny chamfer to it. And I kind of do that just a little bit on all of them. I don't know the exact spec or the exact science on that. As far as I can tell, it's just enough to where the bullet can slide in easier. And I've already inspected this brass. I've checked for any kind of dents or cracks or anything like that. As far as I can tell, the brass looks good, so it should be good. It's still a little dirty, but it tumbled for a pretty good time. So I mean, it still should be good. Then take those 5, and I will throw them in this bag, and I will give it a shot of case lube. And I just take my hands, rub it all over the casing, make sure that it's all over everything, and then pour them out on the paper towel. It says let dry 5 minutes or so, so I will be back in a couple minutes and check on it. And we're back. So now I have the brass. All the alcohol is evaporated. I can tell there's a little bit of like a lube film left on it. Next step is depriming. So I set it in there in the press and I just give it a pop. Primer pops out, forms the case, comes back down. And right here I like to take it out, take my little primer cleaning tool, and I just like to go in there and just remove if there's any debris or anything else in there. See, get it out. I like to set it back in there. On that up stroke. I like to put it back in there and push it back up into that die, which that die is the full length sizing die, and it takes out the cap also. Then I place the cap on it, lower it down, seat the primer. And then I like to just check, make sure the primer seated well, and it did. Onto the powder. And I just kind of like to keep hands on and just checking everything while I'm going, moving the die around, make sure everything's lined up. And I have my powder set. I don't really want to go into like what my powder's set at. I mean, if you can tell what I'm using, 55 grain bullet. It's just a jacketed normal 223 projectile. So I don't really want to go into like what powder I'm using or how much or anything like that. That you need to experiment with and use at your own. All these sets, like the powder loader, the die set, I believe comes with it. Yeah, there's a table that comes with it that shows you what projectile you're using, what powder you need to use, the conversion table of the speed, the powder load, all the information to convert, what you need to use, what speed disk you need to put into your powder loader, that all comes in there. So you experiment, you go by with what it says and figure out what you need to do with it. But for mine, I will show you the grains just from a safe practice set standpoint of what I've been told to do. So once you go up and you load the powder, and I load it kind of slow, bring it down, cut it off, so I don't want a lot of powder spilled everywhere. On the way down, I know that reading, this speed disc, is supposed to be reading 24 grains. So I took it out, and I've already done this, so I know it should be spot on. And I'll get my digital scale. And that should be 24. I don't know if you can see that, but it's 24 on. So I'm just going to take that, put that back in, turn the scale off, I don't need it anymore, and set that to the side. So now I'll take the prime projectile back, put it back in the press, and like I said, I've already checked it. I do it every couple just to see, make sure it's getting the correct prime. And with this powder, this is on the low end of, I think, what I should be using, so I should be good, just at least for a first batch. Then I bring it down, which moves it on to the next stage, which is the projectile seating, which I put in there, and obviously I'm going super slow just for filming and instructional purposes. Go up, press in the projectile, come down. And the great thing with this press, you only have to bring it down like halfway each turn. So once you actually get the hang of it, and just check the steps on the way, but once you get the hang of it, you can put them out pretty quick. So I check that, the seat looks good. Then on to the next stage, which is the crimping. Pull down, give it a good crimp, and inspect it. It looks like where it should be crimped. I'm going to check the micrometer, see if it's in spec or in the parameters, which the parameters of overall maximum overall length should be 2.26. And it is 2.249. So right at 2.25, which, as far as I can tell, this bullet should work. I will set that over there with the other. So I'm going to try to do this quicker. See if I can do this a little quicker, just to show you how fast you can actually do it. I don't know if you're going to be able to capture it or not. So go out, pop the primer, beat that, bring it down, clean it out, Set it back in, down, seat the primer, check the primer seated good, up into the powder, load the powder, seat the projectile, and crank. Finished product. Out the door. So I hope this taught anybody something. If they're interested in reloading, the process is super simple. This is by no means an expensive die set. It's one of the relatively cheaper die sets, and it's really easy. A lot of the information can be found online. I've knocked out almost 50 already, and they all seem in spec. I haven't shot any of them yet. I will say one thing. The first one, just to show you what happens during calibrating, is this little guy. I mean, the primer isn't set right or seated correctly. The projectile is pushed in way too far, and I stopped there. So I'll leave that off to the side as an example. So it's, when I'm sitting in here, it's, a lot of people say time is a big issue with 223 because obviously it's not like a 45 or like a 10 mil or, you know, like 7.62 by 54R I shoot a lot of. But I mean, you're not just pumping out 30 round magazines of these, so you're making, to be worth anything, pretty good amount. So I don't think it's that bad. I don't know the exact time per bullet, but it seems to be, so far, this batch, this is my first one. It's not going to be really cost effective, honestly, with price of supplies and everything. I'm probably double. I could just go out and buy 500. But as far as like when you start buying them, and you know, you buy the powder, bigger increments, the bullets in bigger increments, the primers. I mean, I bought 1,000 primers, I think, for like 20 something bucks. So I mean, I'll have another round of those. I mean, the more you make, and especially with recycling brass, and you can recycle your brass as long as you just check it. As long as it's on parameters, it doesn't look cracked, it doesn't look stretched, anything like that. As far as everything I've read and tell, I mean, you can pretty much just keep reusing it. Just check it, prep it, be careful with it. So for anybody wanting to get into reloading, don't be scared. Just be cautious. Read up on everything. Check your progress as you go. Listen, you know, talk to people. Do what you have to do to just figure out as much as you possibly can on it. It's like anything else. The more you know about it, you know, the better it will be. So I'm out, and I'm probably going to be at the range tomorrow. So I will see how those shoot, and I will get back to you. Shooter 919 out.